Good morning. Hello, greetings everybody. Hello, welcome to our webinar about selling online globally, about how to increase your sales and your revenue, your exports by going international, by hitting international markets. We're delighted you could take the time today to join us. We're going to be talking about strategy for growing your sales internationally and how we can help you with any sort of proactive, practical help and tips throughout the webinar. We have a very full schedule today. So just while we're going to get right into it. How about that? So just while the last of you are logging on, let's do some quick introductions. I'm delighted today to be joined by Andrea. Andrea Nisli is the market researcher for the Rural Export Center, and you're going to see some of the work that she does and some of that research that she helps exporters look at in terms of identifying new markets, new niches, new opportunities to grow their business internationally. And Joshua Erickson is the program manager for the Rural Export Center. So again, a really fantastic, helpful hand, as it were, for any exporters who are in the rural communities. And I will let Joshua and Andrea introduce the Rural Export Center activities and how it was founded, because it's quite interesting how it was really identified as a specific area that needed help. And myself, my name is Susanna Hardy. I'm Chief Content Officer for a company called IBT Online. We are a U.S. company. So a brief word on us before we start. So we're a U.S. company. We're actually headquartered in Florida, although we have offices in other places as well. And we are what's known as a full stack online marketing company. So that means we build websites for people, e-commerce or not, and we do all aspects of online marketing for companies. We are known for two things in particular. We're known for our focus on the mid-cap companies, so not big companies, but the small to mid-cap companies, and we are really known for our ability to help companies grow internationally, so for our focus on exporting. We're also really pleased this year. We signed a strategic partnership actually in December 2023 with the U.S. Commercial Service, the International Trade Administration. We are the strategic partner for e-commerce in particular. So we're very pleased about that. And that melds very well together with something called our online global programs. And these are programs that are designed for mid-cap companies who are looking to go and develop internationally. The map there shows you in yellow all the states that have agreed to our online global programs. Many of them are can be backed by the STEP grants. Enough about us. If you want to learn more, you can reach out. I wanted to start actually with this is just a really brief slide, just to say, typically when we think about someone, a company just starting out in terms of looking at exporting, new to export, new to developing new markets, we'll say there's basically 6 big steps for that journey. Defining the market management goal, the company's goals and the marketing objectives, deciding on your markets. And those first 2, I think, are very well covered by the Rural Export Center, by Joshua and Andrea. And I think a lot of their presentation today is about those things and how they can help and what resources you have. And these are resources which is a well-trodden path. This is something that a lot of companies have already done and benefited from. So we would really encourage you to reach out and say, that is something that interests me. Yes. The other things are more about the online side, and that's sort of our wheelhouse. This is about international digital. So, the rest of that is really about, your website and AI tools and what there is. I think the other important message is that exporting is not always easy. It can be complicated, but you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. You've got U.S. Commercial Service. You've got a lot of service providers, people like IBT Online, who know what to do, who know who to reach out, who have experience in this. So what I would say, as a US exporter, you have a lot of arrows in your quiver. You have a lot of resources to tap. So you don't have to do it alone. We would encourage you to reach out to experts. So with that, let's look at our agenda. The agenda today, we're really going to start off with Joshua and Andrea talking about the Rural Export Center, the facilities and the services provided. And then I'm going to talk more about how an online company like us sees the future of sales and what tools are available there for exporters, looking at websites, looking at e-commerce, looking at online marketing. And I try and be as practical and give you a lot of takeaways as possible, and show you also through some case studies and use cases. At the end of this, we have a moment as well for Q&A. We would encourage you to drop any questions you have in the chat box. We know you're real busy. We know you've got a business to run. So we really appreciate that you're taking the time out of your day today to spend it with us, learning about this. So in that sense, really take advantage of it. Sit back. You don't have to take notes. We'll send you the recording. Enjoy, engage, ask us questions, think about it. And we hope that you find the webinar enjoyable and useful. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Andrea. I think, Andrea, you go first, right? There we go, talking about a helping hand. Up to you, Andrea.
Hi, everyone. Andrea Nicely here from the Rural Export Center. And if you could go to our next, I can talk to the origins of the Rural Export Center. It was designed in Florida when the local trade specialists recognized a need that rural companies have for market research. They don't live close to large exporting cities, and they don't have access to the resources that are available in those cities. So the Rural Export Center was founded by the senators from North Dakota and Minnesota to help rural companies. And when I say rural, our definition is a little bit different than some other definitions. Really, it's any company that is outside of a driving radius of the top 100 exporting cities. So I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'm 50 miles from Denver. My city is over 500,000, but we're considered rural for the example of the Rural Export Center. So rural doesn't necessarily have to mean out away. It can be some other cities. So we can help with that if these services are something that you want to pursue. So the Rural Export Center helps answer a couple of questions to become an informed exporter. We want companies to be able to be active in their exporting and not reactive. So they're not just going where they think, either a friend messaged them or a company has contacted them and they just decide to go to those countries. We want you to have a data-driven example of what you're going to do, and that confidence to export into markets that are going to be great for your products. We do this, next slide, please. We do this by answering a couple of different questions. Where do we go in the world? It's a high-level overview of all the countries of the world from a data standpoint. What does the market look like once I get there? These are reports that are country-specific and identifying the markets that you want to work with. And then who do I work with once I get into that country? What is a list of partners that I can step into? And that's where the power of the commercial service comes in. So we're a research branch, but we work with all of the commercial service offices, local trade specialists, and in embassies all around the world to connect you with companies to help your exporting. And so that connection of the commercial service really helps you have a global branch in your company. Next slide, please. The research that you would do with us is dependent on what needs you have. If you're just starting out and you're looking to figure out what markets you want to step into, then our matrix is that high-level overview of what you're going into. If you kind of have an idea of where you're going and you just want more knowledge about the industries in that country, then the country reports are the best research need. And then if you know what country you went into, you know what that market has looked like, you just don't know who you're going to work with, our potential partner list can help you set that up. Next slide, please. We work with you to set up customized proposals. So we don't have a one size fits all. We do research individualized and customized for your company. So you work with me to find data points that are specific to what you're looking for in your market. And we work with you to figure that out in our matrix, which is on the next slide, an example. This is that high-level overview that's taking data points and a qualitative analysis to look at all the countries of the world. So this is for a fictitious auto company, and they're looking at the number of distributors, number of luxury car distributors. Maybe they also work with, their parts work for airplanes, so they're looking at MRO companies or airports that are large hubs for those industries, number of passengers going through those airports. These are those customized data points that we put in to rank the countries of the world based on what you're looking for. And this helps you have kind of a strategic standpoint. So if you have someone contacting you, this company from China wanting to work with them, they can look at this matrix and say, oh, the data, this whole market is good, and there's not just one company for me to work with. There's going to be a lot of companies for me to work with. Whereas if they had someone contact them from a country that you don't see listed here, maybe there's only one opportunity in that country and there's not room for growth when they step into that market. Next slide, please. Once you've finished the matrix, we can work with the overseas offices to get an on-the-ground idea of what's happening in that market. This is where we also introduce research and your company to those overseas offices and kind of connect you with the embassies over there. And then the next step is our country reports. This is that in-depth look at the markets. This helps just decide what that market looks like when you're on the ground. Gives you an idea of competitors, growth in the industry. This is really specific and detailed to what you need to know to work in that market. And we will pull some, if you have a social media presence, we can pull some of that data. So this is really, like I said, customizable to what you're looking for. And then you'll see in the center those green bars. That's our potential partner list. So these are partners we found that you can work with, ranked based on your criteria. This is the list you then take to the overseas offices and say, hey, this company looks really great for me to work with. I want contact from them, but I can't call them. I'm Joe from Arkansas. You work with our overseas offices in the U.S. Embassy to make that call, and the post office will say, I've got this company from the U.S. that's done all of this research looking to partner with you. And it's a great step into other commercial service offerings in those countries. Let's see. Next slide, please. Our research does take time, but this is that strategic plan that Susanna was talking about, where you're looking at how your company is going to grow and what that's going to look like in the future. So it does take some time to work through this, but we can move through all of this a la carte. So if you just need a potential partner list for a trade show that Susanna was talking about, we can help you set up some of those meetings and connections as we go through that. And we do have a couple of other services that are based on our research, but they're a little bit less in depth. And the first one is we do a website globalization review. I'm sure it's not as detailed as what Susanna and the IBT team has to offer, but it's a nice short look at your website and how internationalized it is that you can take to web developers to help just kind of see what your website looks like at a first glance from the back end. Then we also offer, we call a rec check. This is a due diligence check on overseas companies. So if you do have someone contacting you through your website, they're from Argentina and you don't know anything about them, we can look through our databases and give you confidence whether or not this is a great company to work with or not. And I was just speaking with a trade specialist the other day who had a One of the companies in their state had a overseas connection that was really pushing for contact with them. They wanted to partner with them. They wanted to sign contracts. And the trade specialist contacted the overseas office in Japan, and they came back immediately. This is a scam. Please don't sign up for this. We've known about this forever. And the company was able to save all of that money without having to do that. Sometimes the answer is really quick. Sometimes we have to deep dive into the databases to find it. And we have saved companies from this, or we've given them confidence to walk forward with these connections. This is something that happens pretty quick on our end. So if you need this right now, just send us an email and we can get one of these going for you. If you fit with our rural standpoints, or your trade specialist can work with the overseas offices to make this check for you. Let's see. We have this is a free resource we have on our website, Export Management Companies. This is a great resource if you're not quite ready to do all of the exporting on your own, but you want to work with someone who's already in that market. We've put together a list of export management companies that we've worked with or had contact with that are in different industries. So you can work with these companies to export and just kind of get an idea of where your market is going to work with. And then the last slide that I will talk about, the next one, this is just a quick overview of our services. This pricing is for small businesses. Classified, we do have different pricing if there's a little bit larger companies, but I know Susanna said we work with mostly small business classified companies. And I will turn it over now to Joshua, who will have can talk to some of our examples of companies that we've worked with.
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, I think, I mean, you look at all these different options and you think, well, what does that look like for me, right, as a company? So I just wanted to tell you a story of one of the companies that we've worked with. And so you can kind of put yourself in their shoes and see this is what it might look like for you as a company. So this company is a company in Idaho. They sell farm equipment. And they've done some overseas sales. They've gotten some requests for overseas sales for different equipment pieces and parts, but they really hadn't been proactive or strategic about it. But it got to the point where the leadership of the company felt like, hey, there's an opportunity here for us to diversify, to get some more sales from an overseas source or from another country. And ultimately, whether it's you're facing a shrink here in the United States and you need to look for more customers, or you want to grow your business because you want to give more opportunities to the people you have, or whatever your reasons might be, I think there's a lot of opportunity with considering the international markets. So this farm equipment dealer, they sat down with us and we started just talking through what makes a good market for you. Why does that make a good market for you? What do you do that's different from all the other dealers who could potentially be selling overseas, right? How can you stand out and differentiate yourself? And from those questions and discussion, we came up with a matrix. And the matrix listed dozens of countries, but some of the countries that started to catch their eye were some countries in South America where maybe they already had a little bit of familiarity, but also there were some other opportunities coming up. There was a trade mission coming up to a country in South America. They had already heard some good things about this country in South America. And so we specifically started digging into some of these countries. And that was our country report, where we dug in deep and looked at these countries. Around the same time, they said, hey, we have staff on hand, or staff who currently work for us who speak Spanish. And the owner actually of the dealership spoke Spanish, or the person who was running the dealership spoke Spanish as well. So they said, we need to take advantage of that. And they decided to expand their website so that we helped them evaluate their website from an international point of view and create some Spanish specific opportunities on their website so that they could start pulling people in. And as they started making inquiries overseas or into these South American countries, people who were interested in them, if they went to their website to check out the company, they could see material in Spanish and kind of help them understand this company was serious about exporting, and they had taken steps to show that they were ready to accommodate that target market, the Spanish speakers. And so they had between that website revamp and then the market information that we found, they felt really prepared to go on this trade mission that was coming up. Ultimately, what happened was they were able to go and start talking to people from a position of strength, from a position of saying, hey, we've already done our research. We know there's a lot of opportunity here. We understand these things about the market. And we also know that you're not the only game in town, right? We know that here are some of the main people in town that we can talk to, right? So they felt really strong when they were talking about it that way, and they started seeing increased sales from their website, from their efforts on their website as well. So it was really just a neat opportunity from a business that had a lot of potential. You know, they'd been in business for a while, but they hadn't really approached international business with and with as much proactiveness or with as much strategy as they had their domestic business in the United States. So I think that's wherever you're at, whether it's you're just starting or you're a long time in business, I think that's our goal, is just to really help you as you're going along that journey and transforming yourself and starting to take advantage of those international markets. Why not get some great information so that it can be something that you feel comfortable and planned out with, and you don't feel like it's just reaction or maybe it's just anecdotal, or it's a friend of a friend, right? You feel like you have some solid data to back you up.
Fantastic, Joshua. Thank you very much. We wanted actually to run a quick poll and just ask people who are here if they wanted to have a bit more information, if they've already engaged with the Rural Export Center at all. If they've done so occasionally. If you'd like to learn more, let us know. We can send you some links and show you which web pages to look at and so on. But we'd be really interested to know as well if you've already engaged with the Rural Export Center, either as I said, regularly. If these are like, oh no, I know Joshua and Andrea, I know them really well, or if it's just occasionally. Thank you very, very much for your responses. Very pleased about that. Thank you. Good job on clicking on those mouses, whatever the plural of mouse is. Let's skip now to the future of sales. That's a vast topic. I'm going to hunch it down as much as I can to the three core ingredients from our perspective. So from the online perspective, the future of sales for us, there are three big components. The first, online; second, e-commerce; and then AI. Now the world, there's a lot of us on the planet, there's 8 billion of us on the planet. It's interesting just to note those numbers. Those numbers are worth having in the back of your mind. So there are 5.6 billion mobile phone subscriptions. And 5.5 billion, 5.35 billion of us are using the internet. So out of 8 billion, 5.3 are using the internet, and nearly the same amount are using social media. The stat that really blows me away is the average time spent per day of that 5.35 billion people. It's over 6 hours, nearly 7 hours. So you got 5.5 billion people spending nearly 7 hours a day, most of it on their phone or in front of their computers. How about that? Now, scary statistic, yes, but if you're a small company, especially if you're in sort of rural communities, that's actually really good news. You know, in that case, how to connect with your future prospects, with your existing clients, with your possible employees. You know how to connect with them online, and you know where they are. They're on social media. So this is important for you, especially in the rural community. And this is, as that number says, extremely global. If you look at the way people look for brands, increasingly they look on social media for brands. Now, in the next slide, the blue arrow is the USA, and the white is worldwide average. You can see USA actually, we look on social media less than the rest of the world. If you want to hit the UAE market or Mexico, then you need to be on social media because that's where 82% of people in Mexico go on social media to look for brands. So if you want to connect with them, you need to have some thought to that. These are choices of platforms. The other big thing that's happening is e-commerce. And this was obviously boosted by the pandemic, but before that, it was a rising trend. It is now, you know, not just it's a must-have for many industries. It's no longer a nice-to-have for many companies, for many sectors of the society. So 4 out of 5 billion internet users today are using online shopping. That's B2C. And if you look again, the USA is just slightly behind the white bar in this graph that shows weekly online purchases. And the white bar, there we go. The white bar is the average, and the blue arrow thing there is the USA. So again, if you're looking, say, I really want to sell into the UAE or Mexico, well, they're way to the left of the USA in terms of online shopping, let alone China and Thailand, places like that. So again, this is a global phenomenon, and this is something that you need to get on board. The numbers I've just said are about B2C, B to consumer. B2B is actually larger. The B2B e-commerce markets are larger, about 3 times the size of B2C. And the report coming from Statista in 2023 showing that 90% of B2B companies have shifted to some form of virtual sales since 2020. That was the effect of the pandemic. And again, across the globe. So here you've got lots of charts with lots of different countries showing that. But it really is important to have some form of e-commerce. It doesn't have to be a full e-commerce with payment gateways and all the rest. What we do for a lot of B2B companies and a lot of people starting out in e-commerce is have some functionality where a prospective client can come onto your website and say, I want one of those, one of those, one of those. Give me a quote, please. So it's like creating a sales qualified lead for your salesman to then pick up. Okay, so that's an SQL for your salesman. I've got a couple of people just asking me now. Yes, you will be getting a recording of this in your inbox tomorrow. So you don't have to, I'm going through the slides quickly. You don't have to scrabble for the numbers. You'll get that on the thing. The next thing I want to talk about is the rise of AI. Again, that is a topic that can take hours. I just want to really highlight one thing, which is that online marketeers use and we're early adopters of AI. And we use AI for all these. Google is basically AI. You know, search engine optimization, keyword research, all that stuff is basically using AI tools to figure stuff out, to figure out data points. When you talk about LLMs, large language models, like ChatGPT, those are just transformative. They are absolutely transforming the way we do business and so on, but it's transforming the way people search online. And you're going to have to be aware of that as a train coming down the track, put it that way. So one thing you need to think about when you're thinking about your digital presence in the next 12 months, 24 months, 3 years is what effect and how does my website respond to AI? And I'll give you one little tiny example, okay? This is an example from something called social listening. We have a client, we manage their online presence. In this case, we manage their Facebook feeds and Instagram, and they were sort of bouncing around between around about 150 per day. And we were like, it's kind of boring. Let's try and zoom up this. What can we do? And the question that we were asking is, okay, how about we add a video to that homepage to make it more engaging? What if we do that? Would that help? Well, okay. Instead of just sort of throwing it on the wall and seeing if it sticks, let's actually look at the data. So you look at the data. There's 2 things. One, what are the main competitors doing? And we can figure that out through tools. And what is their target market doing? And how receptive is that target market? We said, guess what? Some of their best competitors are putting in different types of videos. We're going to look at seeing which types we can see, but also which ones perform best. Sort of lifting the covers up on the competitors, and then we're going to look at the markets. We figured out how to do it, did it, and from one day to the next, boom, they went from 150 to 600. Oh, not bad. So that is the effect of using an online AI tool to help your marketing presence, and that's the kind of effect that you can have. Just in one slide, the big things coming down the track that you need to be aware of on the online world. AI, obviously, e-commerce, those are the two that I've really highlighted today. Other ones include this whole notion of personalization. Put it this way, don't use stock images. Rather a bad fuzzy image using your iPhone than a stock image that we've all seen 1,000 times. Social commerce is also really, really big, and that's a big topic for everyone. And the other one is data privacy and compliance. Please don't ignore it. It takes a lot to go on someone's website, to trust a website. Andrea just gave you an example of a scammer. It takes even more to put your card details or to buy anything online. If your website is not secure, is not compliant, has has bugs on it, has scams on it, you will not just lose that client, you will lose such brand authority and such credibility. And for the very least, make sure your websites are compliant and secure. So the future of sales for us, in terms of where we are, what we see from our clients, is very much a digital first environment. An environment where clients say, I want to check out your website. Don't call me. Don't call me. Don't bother me. When I want to contact you, I will. First, I want to check out. First, I want to check out you on your website, maybe your LinkedIn, maybe your social media profile, on various platforms. And when I'm ready, I want to talk to you on the platform I want to talk to you about, how I want to talk to you, where, and in the way that I want. And it's always customer centric. It is the customer that chooses that platform, that language, that environment, not you. So you've got to be ready for them and open for them. That's the challenge from what we're seeing, right? That was overview of what we call the future of sales. Now I want to get down into some tactics for online business development tools. And I'm going to start with the very, very basic of online marketing. And the core basic of everything you do in online marketing and for your website and for your social media is focused around that customer, which is called a buyer persona. A buyer persona is a physical person. It is not the company you're targeting. So let's say you make pens. You're a pen maker. You want to sell to schools and big offices. Those are the companies you want to sell to. A buyer persona is the person within that company who actually takes the decision. And that's the person you're marketing to. Your website, your online presence, your online marketing is all targeted to a person, not to a company. You're engaging always with a person, and that's really important. So you have to figure out who that buyer persona is. And I want to give you an example. One of the best examples I can think of right now is a company called Zipcar. You know them? Their buyer persona is woven into their mission statement, and that's when you read their mission statement, it's quite interesting because that's their buyer persona is urban, educated, tech savvy, environmentally conscious, and then they reflect that in their postings. And this is a posting from Instagram just on and look at that, they're urban, techie, educated, they're off to college, they've got a plant. Environmentally conscious. That is an absolute reflection of their buyer persona. Okay. So having that buyer persona in mind, if you're a college student going off, you're on Zipcar, you say, oh, that could be me. You identify with that. Now let's take a different example of what that looks like internationally. What happens when you want to sell outside the USA? You really need to ask a couple of questions for yourself. And on the left-hand side of the slide, I've listed some of the questions that you might want to ask in particular. In what ways is my buyer persona and their buyer's journey different in these different markets? I have to figure that out as we go. Now, if we look at this, the picture you have on the right there is a picture of L'Oreal USA, right? All these women, there they all are, top floor, the hair companies, they all got great hair. They're all very engaged with something, usually an iPad. They're and it's top floor of a city. Okay, that's how L'Oreal sees its U.S. buyer persona. If I look, for example, at Mexico, L'Oreal Mexico is a bit different. Still on the top floor, still very urban, more collegiate. They're all together. And there's two guys there. Obviously, everyone's got great hair. It's L'Oreal. But there are two guys amongst the group. And that's quite interesting. That's how L'Oreal sees its Mexican buyer persona. L'Oreal Canada, after all, USA, neighbor, very close, very different buyer persona. The sort of the Canadian mosaic of a cultural mosaic is reflected here in the divergent population. So that's how L'Oreal says, my buyer persona in Canada is going to relate to this image. So those are some differences of a buyer persona and what that means. And the important thing is to figure out how your buyer personas react in different markets. The next example I'm going to give you is kind of a funny one. It's an old one. Anyone on GA4 would know that this is an old one, but it's just so striking that I like to keep it. And so on one side you've got, this is a Facebook ad. Same time, same product, same company, one's in Spanish, one's in English, that sort of thing. We posted at the same time. Canada got over 1,000 engagements, which we were really pleased about because Canada can be a bit frosty. They don't actually like to click right up. I can see Andrea smiling at that. You know this. And Mexico, 20,000 engagements. What is this? People were sending us, pictures of their motorbikes, pictures of their babies, telling us to come on here, sharing all over the place. We had ha-has and wows and loves, all this stuff. Unbelievable response. That is a very different response to a buyer persona. That's how the buyer persona reacts in that way, in those different markets. Okay, you have to know that in advance and then figure out what that means for your campaigns. Now I want to step back. Now we've talked about buyer personas and the different buyer personas in different markets. I want to step back and say, right, I've got my US website. Why can't I use my US website to go global? Why can't, Joshua gave the example of saying, well, we've got some Spanish coming in. Let's put some Spanish on there. It helps. But what happens if you really want to get sales? If you that helps you get some initial sales. People who are finding you by sheer luck, they find you in the US. That's terrific. You've got the tip of an iceberg finding you. That should lead you to say, right, I could actually make some serious business here. So if I want to make some serious business in this place, I should have a serious website for that. So why can't I use my US website for that? It's basically because Google is searcher-centric, customer-centric, puts the person at the front. Therefore, if the person sitting in Mexico is typing in Spanish words, your website might not be relevant, even if you have some Spanish words on that website. Let me give you an example. And this is a silly example, I know, but I'm at home today, as you can see. My dog barks during webinars. She will bark at some point. I know it. It's terribly embarrassing. Now, let's say I'm sitting in the US and my dog barks. It's okay because I've got a squeakless dog toy that I found on Amazon. And I found it at, what are these called? Glad Dogs Nation, healthyhomedogtreats.com, squeakless dog toys. So that's what I get when I do squeakless dog toys on Amazon. So not on Amazon, on Google. Okay? The search engine is Google. The words squeakless dog toys. At exactly the same time, I go onto Google UK, different Google. Squeakless dog toys in English. I get different results. Why is that? Google knows where I am physically. Google knows what my past search is. It knows what is relevant to me. Okay? So it's going to give me different search results. If your website If you are targeting Germany and you think that your German prospective clients will find you in the USA with your US website, please know that you are invisible to them. If someone finds you, it is by, wow, the needle in the haystack. They really searched hard to find you, or they stumbled upon you. That's the only way you can do it. Just in terms of this, now we're looking at this thing called localization. I can give you one little example of localization. There are lots of things that go into localization. One example is, for example, keywords. So a keyword in the USA versus Canada English might be quite different. So if you are, let's say, a US company and you do athletic wear and you're running ads in Canada using the word sneaker, you are paying Google money for nothing, or for 1/4 of a possible audience. You really need to use the word runners, because 75% of people in Canada type in runners, not sneakers. Okay, and if you're using sneakers, then you're literally emptying your wallet to Google. So keywords become really important, especially when you're running things like ad campaigns. But I want to give you another example of localization. It's the URL. The URL is your website banner. Now, this is deliberately a confusing slide. The choice of URL you use is very important for Google or any search engine to understand where you want to be relevant and how you want to be relevant for your Spanish prospects or your German prospect, whatever it is. So one of the first things you want to do is figure out the correct URL when you go on to your websites. In this next slide, I think from our point of view, what we really want to give you as a takeaway is to make sure that you're respecting your local buyer persona. I've listed 10 criteria of what we regard as localization for, making a website international. Really making a website international. And there are 10 on that. Language is one, but hosting, the type of CMS you're wearing, the regulatory environments, the optimization for the search engine, all of those are seriously important and add to that localization prospect. If you have e-commerce, then you need to really add another layer on that, which is, what payment methods are you using? What shipping and order fulfillment? As I said earlier, it takes a lot of confidence and trust to actually buy something online. Even harder when you're buying something online and you from a different country, so cross-border. Therefore, you must make sure that there's as much trust as possible built into every step along the way. Otherwise, you will just burn your prospects. So really, as a takeaway from this, I'd like to say that your localized website, you should regard it as your best sales rep. It's the sales guy that you've got to bring into your sales team. When you're having those sales meetings, think of your website. Oh, we're going to a trade show in 2 months. Well, what's that got to, what impact does that have on our website and on our online marketing? Oh, we're going to prospect a new market. What about their website? What about marketing in that case? Each case, think about your online tools. They need to be working very hard for you these days. Right. Let me give you a break here. We've talked too much. If you want to learn more about international websites, if you want to learn more about these online global programs that I mentioned earlier, please let us know. We can send you some email or some blogs, send you in the right direction, or anything else like that, and such. Well, thank you very much for replying on that, and we will march on as time is marching on. I wanted to check very briefly about strategic marketing tactics, and both for B2B and B2C companies. And again, there are 3 major things that I want to talk about: the websites and how they integrate into the online marketing. And then I wanted to do a little focus, just a little tiny focus on trade shows, because that's also something that Andrea and Joshua mentioned to me is important for the rural exporters. The first example I want to talk about is a company called Oscaware. They are a wonderful company. They're actually part in the rural community as well. based in Kentucky. And they originated grill toppers. They made the first grill toppers so that, you know, your veggies don't fall into the grill on the barbecue, and so on. And they developed it in-house. It's very much a family affair, and they've been around for quite a long time. A woman-owned business, fantastic company. And yeah, they've been there since 1989 in Kentucky. They got really lucky, and Walmart sell them. So they started selling with Walmart, and that really helped their business. And then they sold a little bit elsewhere, and Asda, and then they started to sell online a little bit. But over time, you know, companies like Walmart and so on would you know, they have competition, and the competition is very often much cheaper, coming in from other markets, and they're basically Oscarware would maybe pull in someone to look at a grill topper, and then someone would be taking the cheaper model on the bottom shelf. So Oscarware is saying, you know, what do we do? What do we do for this? How do we stop price erosion? The only way you can stop price erosion is brand awareness. That's the only way you can stop price erosion. So if you're a grill top maker, how do you build brand awareness? The only way you can build the brand awareness these days is by online. So we designed their website and refreshed their website. Whoop, hold on, gone too far. Oops, hold on, we're getting there. I'm going to continue talking. The only way you can really build brand awareness, I said, is through your website and through your online marketing and through building your brand. And so we built them a website, which is e-commerce enabled, so that you can buy directly from their website. Something is broken. Okay. Right. I'm going to try and share my screen. Hold on a second. Apologies for this. Let me get this back. Let's see if we can quickly reload and then go from there. Sorry a second. While we're reloading, I think we had a video issue. That's my guess, because I wanted to play a video on the next screen, and I think it broke it. Oscarware, in brief, is a company that has a lot of, oh, here we go. We have the video. We have the video. It worked. Okay. We produce videos for them. And advertising and so on. The point is to make it very, very, very on brand. And what they're about is not so much, they don't show the product. They don't show the grill toppers that much. What they show is people cooking, families together, events, outdoor events. So that is the building of a community around a special moment rather than an actual product as such. And that's actually had a really, really good effect and is working well for them. Right. That video did cause us some problems. Apologies for that. I'm going to go on to my next example now, which is something a lot of you will also be selling via distributors. And you can, you know, once you've done those distributor searches with Joshua and Andrea, then you start selling them by the distributors. But who manages your brand? One thing I would say is do not give your URLs, do not give your brand to your distributors. Keep hold of that. That's your important online real estate. Don't hand that away. What you want to do, and I'm going to take this example of this company here, they sell via a multitude of distributors across the world. And this is a case that we did for them in Africa as they're looking to build out new distributors throughout Africa. But most importantly, they want to say distributors are really good at logistics and supplies, certifications, after sales, stuff like that. But the distributor should not be responsible for your brand development. So this is a company called Amsoil, and they manage their own brand internationally. through having different websites and doing the marketing themselves. They generate leads for their distributors in that sense. And if you just, they'll generate it through, they're supporting their global distributor network. They'll go through videos, through Instagram, through all different parts, all different platforms necessary, and then lead people to the distributors. So in that sense, building brand awareness and lead generation for their distributors, maintaining a very, very strict handle on their distributors, on their brand to do that. I wanted to go quickly as well and say trade shows. I'm really realizing we're running up against the clock as well. Trade shows are back. Yippee, we can all get crowded again into those spaces and those wonderful journeys when we're packed full of people. But you know what? They've changed. They're very different these days. There's lots of different types of trade shows. There's hybrid, all kinds of different trade shows. The costs have also significantly increased. And as well. So from our point of view, what we want to show you is if you're going to go for a trade show, make sure they're worth it. Make sure they're really worth it. And we do programs for our companies about trade shows. They take about sort of 10 weeks in total, sort of say 8 weeks before the show, during the show, and say actually longer than 12 weeks. And then say 2-3 weeks after the show, because after the show is really, really, really important. And as a basic rule of thumb, what you want to do is figure out the return on investment from the very beginning. Before you go to the trade show, you figure out your ROI. As a basic rule of thumb, when you say, okay, what's my cost? What's my cost? Roughly the total cost of the trade show. For that means the booth, the travel, but also management time, opportunity costs, and so on. As a rough rule of thumb, talk about 3 times the cost of the booth. So if you've got a big booth, these things can be really expensive, tens of thousands of dollars. Okay, we want the return on investment minimum from a trade show in our expectations 5 times. So if your cost of your booth times 3 equals, say, 100, you want 500 in return. So how do you generate that? That's the process. That's the data question from that. One of the key ways of doing that is this preparation of before, during, and after. One of the keys to that is to producing a really good landing page, what's called a landing page. A landing page can be a part of your website, but it's used to have as a springboard for all the things that you're going to create around this trade show. You're going to be creating little videos and Instagrams and links to the trade show organizers and putting things out on your LinkedIn, all kinds of things in order to promote yourself and shine and highlight your success at the trade show. And for that, you need a landing page. That landing page can then be reused for other things and maintain your authority, your thought leadership on these. And I just wanted to show you an example of a particular booth, for example. You notice, this is a booth very much designed. This is again that company Amazon, actually. QR codes essential, and filming this and using that. Again, if you want more information on the trade show side, let us know. We can talk to you about how that works in more detail. But I just wanted to give you a little flavor of it. Right. We're hitting nearly on the end of time. Thank you all for staying with us. Some takeaways, some next steps, and some time for Q&A. I guess the big takeaway that we wanted to give you from IBT Online side is, from an online perspective, we believe that U.S. rural exporters need online business development tools. You need them markedly more than people even in cities. You really rely on them. But not just that, it's also because the world is online. Remember those numbers I gave you right in the beginning? There are 5.5 billion people online for nearly 7 hours a day. So, use that. Use your online tools. Make sure those assets are working really hard for you and your company. And some of those big latest trends they are pushing that need for online. They're pushing that more and more. They're going more and more. If you look at the AI, if you look at e-commerce, all of the latest trends say about, excuse me, are all an increase in the use of online tools. On the next slide. Oops, we're not broken again. There we go, finally. So those are those big latest trends that are coming through for that. Which means for us that your localized website, your international website, is going to be key to expand internationally. Even if you have very limited resources, then just at least think of a landing page. But at all points, you have to remember that local buyer persona and put the prospective client at the center of all of your online activities. Going back to the very start of what we were talking about in today's webinar, we said that there's 6 big steps to designing an international digital strategy. Use resources like Joshua and Andrea for defining a strategy, figuring out which markets to go on, vetting potential distributors, where are the market objectives, how do I do a plan going forward. And if you want to have online tools, make sure that they are proactively international, and that they have the buyer persona at their core. What we would also urge you to do is, before you launch anything, especially in e-commerce, make sure that all your ducks are lined up, that you have all the pieces in place. You don't want to burn prospects. And the biggest message of the day, you don't have to do this alone. Reach out to Andrea, Joshua, or service providers like ourselves. The Rural Export Center is there for you to use. It is a resource that is, as I said, it's a well-trodden path, and it's designed for your kind of company. So reach out to them and take advantage of the services provided. If you want, excuse me, if you want more resources on e-commerce, as I said, we are the strategic partner for the International Trade Administration on e-commerce, and there's lots of downloadables for free on the ITA pages, the International Trade Administration for the U.S. Commercial Service pages, and for that. And we have also these online global programs if you want more information. And then finally, on our own website, which is IBT.onl, we've got lots of free downloadables as well, either on the service pages or on the resource pages, if you want to learn more about markets or about online tools like e-commerce. And that is the world in 55 minutes. Thank you all very much. We have a few questions that have come in, so I'm going to go straight to answering some of them. Some of the first ones are for Joshua and Andrea, which is, hi, I have a little confusion. Do I contact you or do I contact my state rep?
There's really no wrong answer. You could contact us or your state rep. They know about us. If you contact us, then we'll loop them in, right? So we want to get you the information that you need as fast as you need it. So don't hesitate. Just reach out to us and we'll loop them in and we'll move forward. Or if you have a great relationship with them, that works too.
Okay, fantastic. Another question is, I've heard that there are grants available. Are these grants available to pay for your services?
Yes. So there's a number of grants that can qualify for our services that I'm aware of. I know there's probably even more out there, but for example, the STEP grant, State Trade Expansion Grant, State Trade Expansion Program grant, and most states have STEP grant funds that can be applied toward international business. So that includes trade shows, international websites, and international market research and services of the commercial service, like the Rural Export Center. I know agriculture companies can also take advantage of grants through USDA that will help them with international expansion or business expansion.
Okay, great. Just one question from us before I sort of round up is for the IBT side. Do you do all markets? yes is the answer. I think, I guess there's some markets we might not do, but we haven't come across markets we don't do yet. So, yes, all reasonable markets. How about that? Yeah. So there we go. It is on the hour exactly. There are a few more little questions coming in, but I think we're going to have to round up, and we will reply to you individually by email for any other questions. I wanted to thank Andrea and Joshua very, very much for all the work you do for America's exporters, and for all the work you do for the research and the trade and the verifications you do that's up on the behalf of the Rural Export Center and the Rural Export community. Thank you both very much for the webinar today. And thank you all for attending and taking the time. We appreciate that very much. We hope that you have found the webinar of use. Yes, you will be receiving this webinar recording in your email. One last question from Antonelli. If we reach out, Joshua, if we reach out to you, will it be free or do we have to pay for your service? I don't know if that was for me or for you.
Yeah, so we do have services that we're required to charge for, or those are the ones that are more involved. But we do have services that are free as well, and all of the initial conversation is all free, right? So we will not charge you any fee until you are 100% certain that you are going to get value from that fee service, right? So that's one of the things that we do.
Yeah, great. And for IBT Online, we're a private company, but obviously we don't charge people for phone calls. We're not lawyers. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I'm allowed to say that. I'm a private company. Thank you all so much for attending, and really delighted that we could be of some help. Happy exporting. Happy growing your business. Be well, stay safe, and see you online, offline, and in between. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Thank you, Joshua. Bye.